Maybe you disagree, maybe you feel I've neglected to mention something. If so, I understand, but I'd like to ask you to wait until my full-length review comes out before really judging my opinions.
Man, I'm a bit late on this one. I have tried to make this video no less than 3 times. The first attempt was immediately after the games came out. The second was after the release of the second DLC, and the third attempt was supposed to come out the same day as Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I always make a script and get ready to record, but I never actually follow through. The reason this rant has been so hard to make is pretty obvious. Talking about Sword and Shield is like purposely walking into a hornet's nest. It's asking to be stung by angry insects who don't care that you have feelings or opinions, they just want to hurt you. I'm still going to do this anyway, because honestly, I need to. The rant videos have always been a method for me to scream my frustrations into the void, and I'm not going to stop myself just because I know that it'll invite negativity. So, with that being said, I love Sword and Shield, and honestly think they're some of the most replayable Pokemon games in the series. I'm gonna rant about it. Okay, it would be disingenuous for me to start off this rant without addressing the Cufant in the room. Sword and Shield have been subjected to a lot of controversy, and I just want to get this part out of the way. Is it sad? Yes, but was it to be expected with 809 Pokemon moving to an entirely new console? Also yes, I just don't think this is something worth crying over. Out of almost 900 Pokemon total, this game allows you to catch all but 234, which is more than any other pair of Pokemon games ever. It is unfortunate that I can't transfer over some of my favorites later, but home still allows me to have them for the future, so there isn't a real loss. And my favorite Pokemon is Mew, so I've played without access to my favorite Pokemon for years. Trust me, you'll survive. This is a stupid argument, but for the sake of getting it over with, yes, the tree is not as detailed as it could be. It did not harm my enjoyment of the game, and I overall like the look of Sword and Shield. It's stylized, and I like this style. Sure, it isn't Breath of the Wild, but I mean, look at the fans in the stadiums, or the tile on Ness's gym floor. There is clearly effort here, and I don't think anything in the games are bad, just not the best. When they said they improved animations and models, I don't think it was a lie made by Big TPC to distract from the lack of a national dex. I think the animations in this game are a clear improvement over past entries. And I know someone is going to want to point out Double Kick, but I'm not talking about just the moves. I'm talking about how the human characters have personalities now, how they throw their Pokeballs in unique ways, how they can separate their fingers instead of holding up the same 4 because they were fused together. The Outer World Pokemon now have a ton of personality too, with how they chase you and react in campsites. So yeah, I think the whole controversy was stupid. Plus, the moves that aren't used by almost every single Pokemon do have fun animations, so I don't understand this cherry picking of examples to try to paint the whole game as a cash grab. This is almost a philosophical question that cannot be answered in a YouTube video by a 26-year-old woman in her pajamas. What I can say is this: I have no idea how much money Game Freak gets out of the company pot. I have no idea how hard it is to work on a game on a console when you've almost exclusively worked on handhelds before. I have no idea if throwing more money at the game would have solved its problems. I do know that most of Pokemon's profits come not from the games, but from merchandising. I also know that Pokemon has multiple projects, from the anime, movies, Pokemon Go, the new MOBA game, new merchandise lines, and more, so expecting every dollar to go exclusively to the next mainline video game would be absurd. In essence, maybe we shouldn't judge a game based on its prospective bank account and instead just focus on the game itself. Yes, I love Pokemon. Yes, I do have a soft spot for Nintendo. That does not automatically invalidate my opinion. I can be critical in a productive manner and still enjoy something. In fact, I think it makes my opinion more valuable because you know that anything I criticize comes from a place of genuine want for the games to improve. And that concludes the uncomfortable controversy section of this video. If there was another one you wanted me to comment on, the answer most likely is, I don't care! Not because I want to be dismissive of anyone's opinion, but because beyond these big ones, I just don't feel like discussing every complaint on Twitter or Reddit or YouTube really helps either way. It just becomes arguing at that point, and that's not what this video is about. So now to the actual rant. It's weird to talk about Pokemon's gameplay because, come on, really? It's Pokemon. You catch Pokemon, beat gyms, talk to strangers, and take down a corrupt evil organization built on the back of some wealthy person with too much time on their hands without the help of the local police. You know how this works. I know how this works. So what more is there to say? We could talk about the quality of life features. The first is the PC box link. This is just fantastic. Being able to change what Pokemon you're training whenever you want instead of having to fly to a Pokemon Center and then walk all the way back is such a great time save. And there are still traditional PC machines in every center, so if you do want to walk 2 miles back up a hill during winter like your grandparents did in the good old days, you can. The next is the bike. Now it's automatically attached to a button on your controller, and it serves as a bike and as surf seamlessly. No need to stop and navigate a menu anymore. Once you unlock the ability to go over water, you just need to bike towards the edge of a lake or river and you're on your way. Not only does this make travel faster, but it also keeps you in the moment, allowing you to keep your eye on that rare Pokemon or escape from that rampaging one without a menu in your way. But not every time-saving measure is fully appreciated. The fly mechanic was shortened to just a cut with the flying taxi's art in the corner, which is faster and more efficient, but I would have loved to have some sort of animation instead. Or at least an animation if you went up to one of the taxis in the city so that you could see the cutscene for flavor or choose to avoid it for time. Another time save is the EXP share. Now, the new full team EXP share has always been a bit divisive. Some people like the grind, others prefer to breeze through the story as quickly as possible. Both have merit. I personally like a little bit of grind, but I would rather have it easy than having multiple obnoxious grinding sessions. I am always reminded of Gen 2, where after you beat Morty, you have 3 possible gym leaders to face, with the easiest at level 30 and the hardest at level 35, but all the trainers you face in between average out at level 23. I love this gen, but I hate trying to grind this section of the game because it's a chore. So, personally, I don't mind the grindless nature of this game as much as some hardcore RPG players might. It is one of those staples of the Pokemon series that a lot of people miss, and I can't blame them for that. But, looking back at some of those titles, and actually playing some of the old games again, I realized that the love for grinding is kinda like the love of giving birth. It's incredibly painful in the moment, but you look back on it fondly. And that doesn't even include EXP candies, which make leveling in the post-game incredibly easy and efficient. It doesn't take a week to get one Pokemon to level 100 anymore, you can get it done in a couple hours instead. But the best time-saving addition to this gen has got to be the changes to IV and EV grinding. I'm sure that many casual Pokemon fans have thought about building a quote-unquote competitive team for fun, but then you look up how to find strong Pokemon and everything you need to do to even be remotely viable, and wow! That's a lot of math! It's intimidating. Before Sword and Shield, I only did it twice to make a Skilling Cincino and a Porygon Z that terrorized my friends. Now, with the IV Judge and bottle caps for IVs, Pokejobs for EV training, and mints for natures, you don't need to sink hours of time and pages of calculations to get a team you know meets your requirements. You can make silly teams, and it doesn't cost a month of your time, like my team with a Mr. Rhyme, which I only made because my husband hates mimes. Point is that competitive Pokemon is more accessible than ever, and that's great news for Pokemon fans casual and competitive alike. Also, these new features allow you to make beloved Pokemon competitive as well, by adjusting their stats instead of needing them to be bred in. Now your shiny Bubbles from Gen 3 can be the overpowered Whiscash he was born to be. Speaking of shiny Pokemon, now there are two types, Star Sparklies and Square Sparklies. It's a minor change, but it adds some variety between shinies. The odds are the same as Sun and Moon, with a 1 in 4,096 chance to encounter one with no additional methods, and a max odds of 1 in 512 if you have the Shining Charm and Chain Battle over 500 of that Pokemon species with a Brilliant Aura. Not to mention Dynamax Adventures, but we'll get there later. And I could continue on talking about every new feature that makes the game a little more smooth, like the high-tech earbuds that allow you to change sound levels, or the curry mechanic that raises friendship and heals your party all at once, or the league card system, which is just a fun way for everyone to compare stats. But overall, the point I want to make is that gameplay has been made more and more efficient, and it's an improvement to the overall experience of playing these games, especially for newcomers and casual players. I touched on this a little with the controversies, but let's take an in-depth look at the graphics of this game.
They're fine.
I agree with most critics that say this game isn't the most graphically beautiful game on the Switch. There are textures that are very basic. The frame rate can slow a bit if you play too long or turn on internet connectivity, and some locations do look sparse and empty compared to others. I don't think any part of this game looks hideous, and like I said before, it doesn't dampen my experience with the game, but I certainly wasn't wowed in the same way Pokemon Snap or Breath of the Wild did. Until I got to Balloonlia. Until I got to this town. I freaking love this town. I love the Pokemon just hanging around, I love the glowy mushroom in the darker atmosphere, I love the little ivy-covered cottage houses. If every location had as much personality as this and the Glimwood Tangle did, I don't think anyone would be unhappy. To me, every other location is just what I expect from Pokemon. Cartoonish and colorful, but not breathtaking. And I see where that could disappoint fans who are looking forward to a huge upgrade as the mainline games jumped from handheld to console. I certainly think it's an upgrade from the handheld 3D graphics, but I also still see room for improvements. However, I do want to set a distinction here. The graphics are cartoonish and bright. They are not lazy. If you look beyond the 3 screenshots everyone shares of pointless background pieces not meant to be examined, you will see that there is a lot of detail and love put into this world. But ultimately, how good something looks and how much that matters is pretty subjective. That's why all I can say is, I think it's fine. Not great, but it also isn't Fire Emblem Three Houses either. Ooh, burn! I love you, Three Houses, but sometimes you look really bad. Graphics aren't just textures and locations. Graphics includes characters too, and this is the best Pokemon title when it comes to characters looking good. These guys do some flips, Opal goes full crazy grandma, and look at Leon's expression after you beat him. How much emotion and character was just shoved into like 5 seconds of animation there? Frustration, sadness, and then pride all in one sequence. Pokemon has never had that much personality before in its graphics, and I don't think enough credit is given by the general fanbase for this improvement. The music is almost all bops, and the gym music has never been more hype. Done. Pokemon has never been difficult. It is a game meant to be beaten by children. You can beat any game with a level 100 Pokemon of your choice, you can have a team composed entirely of one type, or you can even exploit loopholes to beat the ultimate evil with a level 5 Pidgey. YouTubers have made a literal career around beating Pokemon games in new, obscure, and difficult fashions. None of these games are hard, but some are easier than others. Sword and Shield are definitely easy. Leon is the only main trainer to have 6 Pokemon before you're the champion, the EXP share and the EXP candies make leveling a breeze, and none of the AI tried to use competitive strats. It is very easy to pull off practically any strategy or combo you want in this game. Which I like? Look, this might be a purely Gale thing. Objectively, the game is too easy, and they should have made the battles tougher. There is very little challenge unless you self-impose rules like a level limit. That being said, my favorite thing is making up new teams and playing through Pokemon games over and over and over again. Being on the easier side just makes the replayability easier because I know a run won't sink too much of my time and anything I can think of is probably viable. Which is a key part of what makes Pokemon an RPG separate from its peers. In other RPGs, there is a focus on min-maxing and coming up with the strongest combos to take down foes in 40-minute epic battles. In Pokemon, I can just pick my team based on what I find cute, or because I want a snake team, or any other reason I want because it's my journey. And looking back on older Pokemon titles, I realized that almost every Pokemon game has the Elite Four stuck to 4 or 5 Pokemon with the champion having 6. So it wasn't like this title nerfed the trainers to make it easier, you just have more ways to get stronger, easier, and faster. I do think the game tries to do some neat things like the Quiz Show Gym with Opal and the Double Battle Weather Gym with Raihan, but ultimately the game needs higher level teams with some more type coverage and maybe some interesting item usage. Leon is pretty tough if you aren't over leveled though. Makes it pretty understandable why no one else in this region has defeated him yet. Pokemon Sword and Shield has 2 main plots. One is the attempt to defeat the undefeatable champion. The other is some plan about making an eternal source of energy because in the far, far future there won't be energy anymore, so the problem needs to be stopped now, no matter how dangerous, because waiting 24 hours is not an option. The story that follows your trainer going through the gym challenge is one of the best, if not the best, plots Pokemon's ever had. It really takes the competitive nature of Pokemon battling to its obvious conclusion. Sports. And everything that relates to the gym challenge is just dripping in fun. You have the ranking system, the colorful leaders that have their own quirks and battle styles, the seemingly impossible top ranker who also serves as a wise mentor, the friendly rival that goes through a character arc but still isn't as cool as you, the a-hole rival everyone is going to ship you with even though he's evil, and the hot girl. Yep, that's right. You're playing in an anime tournament arc. And it is the most fun I've had with doing the gym challenge because it makes me feel like my character has a reason to want to do the gym challenge. Every Pokemon game up until this one just kind of casually says, go take on these gyms because I gave you a Pokemon, so just try it, it might be fun. But here it feels like there's a point to trying. There's a ceremony to start the new battling season. There are more people than just you and your rival participating. People are excited and cheering for you every step of the way because you are a star athlete now. It just hits differently as such a larger task than ever before, even though it boils down to the exact same formula we've been playing for years. The characters also get to shine here. From their over-the-top facial expressions, to their league cards, to how they throw a ball, every gym leader has something that makes them unique, even though you only see them for very little time. You get a clear sense of their personalities from such short interactions. And the champion hasn't been this relevant to the story since, well, like Gen 1. Leon's adorable, but takes his responsibility as champion seriously. All those times where you laughed at the fact the adult asked the kid to handle some important world-ending affair? Well, now we have a champion who does handle champion-level threats. Sonia begrudgingly sets off to research the Darkest Day only to find she actually enjoys the work immensely. Hop is an overconfident kid who gets shown the harsh realities of the world once he actually has to work on his dream, and Beatty is an overconfident kid who needs to take a few punches to settle down his ego. And actually, quick aside here, I don't think Hop is as bad as everyone makes him out to be. He has clear motivations, actually has a character arc where he changes his dream after facing reality, has a team that tells his story as the game progresses, and he's a rival who also acts as a friend. I get that he's a bit too eager to battle or interrupt you every 5 minutes, but I think as a character in a Pokemon game universe, he isn't as pointless as everyone in X and Y, and he isn't as annoyingly positive as Hau in Sun and Moon. The amount of storytelling this title brings is actually phenomenal compared to past entries. Personally, only Black and White surpass it in storytelling for me. It has a narrative and everything revolves around that narrative to the point where when you beat Leon and become the champion, it feels like you just accomplished a world-changing feat because every step of the way you were faced with rivals, fans, and challenges that emphasize this task. It might not be a heart-wrenching tale, and it isn't groundbreaking, but in terms of Pokemon plots, this one feels the most like you're in the anime. But as fantastic as that plot is, there is also the other plot. And it sucks! Macrocosmos is even more irrelevant than Team Flare, and that is really saying something. They come out of nowhere, their plan is stupid and incoherent, they aren't particularly difficult to deal with, and most importantly, they interrupt your match against the goddamn champion. Honestly, I think this is the reason so many people hate this game. Other issues are inconvenient and annoying, but some part of Pokemon has always been inconvenient and annoying. HM sucked, TM's breaking sucked, the lack of a physical and special split sucked. Gary showing up out of nowhere when my team hasn't healed sucked, but at least the pacing was consistent and you ended on a high note. This plot grinds the story to a halt when you are at the peak of an adrenaline rush. And the story is just all over the place. There is the future energy crisis that hasn't happened yet and won't for thousands of years. The old legend about a hero who was actually two heroes who were actually two Pokemon. The darkest day thing that turns out to just be Pokemon. This chick who tries to stop you from seeing Leon by fighting a child instead of just telling him, "Oh, he's in an important meeting, please wait a little longer or go to dinner without him." It just couldn't find a theme to hold on to. And past evil villains have been very basic and silly with motivations. I want money, I want my boss back, I want more water, I want more land, I want to explode the universe and rule the world, Pokemon abuse is wrong, JK, I want to rule the world is ugly so we all deserve to die, and my husband and kids left me so I want to mind meld with aliens. But at least these are silly and fun motivations that allow for larger than life events to occur. Mr. I Want Sustainable Energy could have solved this with a bunch of solar panels, and probably with Pokemon. I mean, people have been using electrode power for years. So, yeah, this was really a big misstep on the game's part, and ultimately due to its unfortunate placement at the end with no lead up, it just sours what was a very enjoyable experience up until that point. I really love the rest of the story. Everything that has to do with the gym challenge is phenomenal, but it's tough to separate that out from the disastrous third act evil arc. The Wild Area is the best new concept Game Freak have come up with in a long time. I mean that very seriously. An open area that has wild Pokemon roaming about at levels higher than your team, has multiple biomes and weather for an unheard of variety of Pokemon, and all in a multiplayer friendly zone is absolutely the direction I've been dying to see Pokemon go. Now, is the execution of that concept perfect? No, of course not. Like I said before, there are frame rate drops in this area, the locations aren't very distinct, and it is the most bare looking location in the game. But otherwise, it is a great addition to the series. I love the mix of Pokemon walking around in the grass, and then these larger, stronger Pokemon just hanging out in between. I love that the weather changes which Pokemon are available, and the effects of the battles held in that area. I love that it isn't separated at all, and you can pretty much go to whatever part you want, you'll just get absolutely destroyed. But my favorite part of the wild area is that it gives you so many options before the first gym. I found a handy image by Reddit user HyperParadise, and it shows how some Pokemon games practically force you to use certain Pokemon until you get a couple gym badges. I love playing with vastly different Pokemon, and playing around with a single type build or a thematic build. Unfortunately, the past titles have limited that potential, keeping certain Pokemon or types, like ice types, as an endgame only option. But with the introduction of the wild area, you have well over 50 different species of Pokemon to potentially use against the first gym, and they come in every type. In fact, here is a list of every Pokemon you can get before the first gym. You can truly be almost any kind of trainer you want to be, and that is a huge part of what makes Pokemon so fun to me. Which leads me to another new fun feature, Dynamax Raids. Dynamax Raids allow you and 3 other trainers to fight large Pokemon in a totally new battle style. I didn't get it at first. I thought it was kind of stupid to put raid bosses into a Pokemon game, but now that I've had time to try all sorts of events and raids with my friends, yeah, I kinda get it. It's not the most fun I've ever had in a Pokemon game, but fighting Mewtwo with 3 friends and trying to strategize which Pokemon we'll use and what strategy works best was fantastic. The AI sucks though, and trying to get all of your friends together for a match can be a chore, so it definitely needs to iron out a few kinks. But as an optional mechanic that allows you to play with friends, it isn't half bad. So while I acknowledge the wild area isn't faultless and could definitely use some help, I think it overall was a step in the right direction. A step that was almost perfected by the DLC. The last thing to talk about is the DLC, because the DLC is fantastic. It's everything the wild area should and could be. More varied and fleshed out locations, more side quests, Pokemon running behind you, legendary Pokemon needing to be discovered. It's all the great stuff everyone wanted in Sword and Shield to begin with. The Isle of Armor has its own Pokédex of 210 Pokemon, most of which are new returning Pokemon not available in Galar. And this doesn't even include the count for Alolan forms given as gifts from the guy looking for Diglets. The Isle is populated by new helpful NPCs that give Pokemon access to their Gigantamax forms. You can recycle items, teach special moves, change bicolor, and more. And all that surrounds a side quest where you train under Master Mustard, a fighting type master who uses the new Pokemon Cufant and Urshifu. And the best part to me is that this area isn't level locked. You can run through a new playthrough and immediately join the dojo after you've ridden the train out of Wedgehurst Station. No need to be the champion, you can enjoy this content before you formally enter the gym challenge. The Crown Tundra is a little different. It is set to level 60s and higher from the start, with the opening fight being at level 70. Clearly this is meant to be endgame content, and that's not surprising considering most of the new Pokemon added with the Crown Tundra are legendaries. This area is almost entirely side quests to hunt down legendaries, with the quest to find the Regis, the Galarian trio of legendary birds, and the King of the Harvest. It is a great return to when we had to hunt the Regis in Emerald, or chase the legendary dogs in Gold and Silver. It is nice to have legendaries we have to actively pursue again, instead of having them handed to us in a cutscene. Though that does still take place a bit in the Dynamax Adventures. While I don't love Max Raids, Dynamax Adventures makes them a strategy game you play with friends that is much more to my liking. You and up to 3 friends enter in with rented Pokemon, face 3 Dynamax Pokemon that you choose by deciding paths to take, and end up at a guaranteed legendary Pokemon at the end. All you are guaranteed to know at any time, though, is 1 type for each opponent, and NPCs along the path can provide new items or Pokemon to help you reach the end. It can be a tough challenge, and the reward is massive. With the Shiny Charm, you have a 1 in 100 chance of finding a Shiny out of the Pokemon you capture, and that includes the legendaries. Both parts of this DLC add so much, and I see this as an example of how Game Freak can evolve Pokemon for the future. It shows an improvement in large map design, a continued grasp of delightful characters, more efficient and smooth gameplay options, and Pokemon walking behind you like the adorable best friends they are. So, for $30, I think this DLC is a must-buy. It adds so much content that's fun and exciting. I had a blast every minute I played, and Dynamax Adventures is my favorite way to play Sword and Shield with friends. So after all that, what's the conclusion? Can we ignore all the bad to celebrate the great leaps this game has made from its predecessors? Do the faults outweigh the good and doom this title? The tough truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter what my answer is. I probably value different things in a Pokemon game than you do, and you value different things than the next person, and Sword and Shield are just the right mix of great achievements and frustrating disappointments that no one is really right or wrong. I think that the features it does well are the best in the series. The gym challenge is my favorite story hook. The efficiency and ease of gameplay are just my speed. The sheer amount of early game access to Pokemon is the thing I have wanted most for years. I love the characters. I love the new Pokemon designs. I love the little touches like regular people cheering for you, character arc storylines told through Pokemon teams, and Ball Guy. I think the camping mechanic is great, the music is a bop, and the DLC is an absolute dream. And for me, the bare wild area, the very easy difficulty, and the disastrous evil villain aren't enough to ruin those positive feelings. But it's easy to imagine a person who argues that the villain is what makes Pokemon for them, and the graphics do matter, and the easiness made it too boring. So, that's why I'm at an impasse. But what I'm 100% confident on is that this isn't a game so bad that the Pokemon franchise is doomed, or the company is just pulling a cash grab. The game's had some missteps, and as a consumer, you don't have to accept them. That's the price you pay for being the #1 franchise in the world. But the games aren't evil, and they aren't unplayable. They're just games. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you agreed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you disagreed, also leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Because there is no dislike button anymore. So, screw you. Everybody agrees with me. I don't have to accept criticism. What? I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye! Hi there, it's the end of the video, my friend. Hit the bell if it was okay, I'm sure I'll make good content someday. I'll play some games or do some drawing, Pokemon and fights with darling, video essays and reviews. I couldn't do it without you, so thanks, like and subscribe.